harassing the police every single day.
From the governor's desk.
After discussing the bill for more than 8 hours, the Senate panel just advanced the measure to the chamber floor, which is its last stop. The governor proposed this bill following a violent protest in Tampa last year. It allows police to challenge budgets, opens communities to liability for poor riot control, and creates or strengthens penalties against violent actors. But opponents worry it's written too broadly and will suppress First Amendment rights. There was some bipartisan opposition to this bill, but they will need more if they hope to stop the bill on the floor.
A state Senate committee has now advanced a controversial bill that will affect what happens when you protest in Florida. After discussing what's known as HB 1 for more than 8 hours, the panel finally advanced the measure 11-9 in the committee vote to the chamber floor. This is the last stop before it goes to the governor's desk. The governor proposed the bill. He calls it an anti-riot bill after there was some violence at a demonstration that happened in Tampa last year. It allows police to challenge budgets, opens communities to liability for poor riot control, and creates or strengthens penalties for those who commit violence. Supporters say it's a law and order measure. Opponents say it's written way too broadly and it's going to suppress your First Amendment rights.
It's such the right thing to do to vote no that none of you have even a half-assed reason to vote yes.
You have the right to free speech all day long and 6 ways to Sunday, but you do not have the right to act violently.
Now, opponents did have some bipartisan opposition to the bill, but they're going to need more of that if they hope to stop the bill on the floor of the state Senate in Tallahassee. For now, it seems like the Republican majority does have the votes needed to send HB 1 straight to the governor.
In other news, the controversial anti-mob bill, or HB 1, will reach the Senate floor in Florida. Those against the bill rallied in downtown Jacksonville today. News4JAX reporter Marilyn Parker joins us live. Marilyn, this proposal is getting closer to the governor's desk.
It is, and if the Senate approves it, it could be made into a law very soon. Governor Desantis proposed it so that it would combat riots and looting as well as protect law enforcement, while those who oppose the bill say it's designed to silence communities and intimidate them. It's one step away from the governor's desk.
I think it is high time we pass this bill.
The controversial HB 1, or anti-mob bill, was approved by a Senate committee Friday and was protested in Jacksonville yet again Saturday.
Things like this are really scary. They're just designed to basically intimidate people and stop us from taking the streets and stop us from assembling as a community.
In September, Governor Ron DeSantis announced the Combating Violence, Disorder, and Looting and Law Enforcement Protection Act. Just a few months after several civil rights protests across the country, where some of them turned violent. The bill increases misdemeanor crimes to felonies, denies bail for people arrested during protests, treats organizers or those who fund violent protests as members of organized crime, and removes liability for drivers who hit protesters during a march.
It's a bad faith bill. It was drafted in hindsight after all the progress that we made last summer, taking the streets for justice for people who were slain by the police.
Republicans say they believe this bill will pass because it's the right thing to do.
The Governor DeSantis and our Republicans in the legislature are going to make sure that First Amendment rights are protected, but the right to riot doesn't exist in this state.
The bill would also prohibit state grants or aid to local governments that cut police budgets. And in the Senate committee yesterday, dozens of people urged the legislators to vote against this bill. And groups here tell me they're going to continue fighting and put pressure on the Senate next week to reject it. We're live in Jacksonville tonight. Marilyn Parker, Channel 4, the local station.
Even before the vote was in,
it's a horse and pony show.
Donald Saku felt the GOP majority pushing HB 1 wasn't listening.
So what are we doing?
The Jacksonville man, one of dozens driving hours to be here, fearful the anti-riot bill will become an anti-protest law, especially for minorities.
We're trying to organize, keep people's voice heard, keep the subject matter in the news, and if something happens, that happens, but you remember what this country is based off of.
The governor proposed the bill following violent protests in Tampa last year.
If you do not disperse from the roadway, gas will be used. It will be deployed.
It allows police to challenge budgets, opens communities to liability for poor riot control, and creates or strengthens penalties against violent actors.
In no way, shape, or form does this interfere with an individual's right to free speech.
Sponsor Senator Danny Burgess says the goal is safe communities, suppress crime, and protected rights.
You have the right to free speech all day long and 6 ways to Sunday, but you do not have the right to act violently.
Democrats in committee unified in opposition, trying to water down the policy with 12 amendments.
And so by your votes, the amendment is not adopted.
None were adopted, despite members calling HB1 dangerous, costly, and too broad.
So do you think President Trump would be guilty of mob intimidation on January 6th?
Madam Chair, I'm not going to speculate on that.
The full Senate will now hold HB1's fate.
It's very unfair, and I hope it doesn't pass.